Hello everybody here. Welcome to YouTube Model Builders Tuesday night presentation. Tonight we have the great pleasure of having Bill Van Linton from the South Central Division. Bill has 50 years of all types of model railroading experience from live steam to N-scale. I'm Dude Lindler from the Crooked Fingers Railroad. Tonight Bill will be on hand to ask questions and show his years of model railroading. Anything from hand-built structures made from cardboard, balsa wood, and basswood. He really has dealt with a lot of live steam stuff. So if you guys got any questions, tonight would be the night to ask those questions. Bill's going to present quite a bit of stuff when it comes to all of his years in the model industry. Just want to let everybody know, I want to put a shout out to the YouTube Model Builders team for everything that they've done, from the e-mag to the live show every month that they do. If you guys need to know or subscribe, if you guys go to the YouTubeModelBuilders.com, you guys can go there and subscribe for the e-mag, and if you subscribe, you'll get it it's biannual, every 2 months the e-mag comes out, and if you subscribe to it, you guys will get it by email, and it's a really good subscription. It's free, absolutely free. So further to do, I'm going to go ahead and present Bill, and Bill can do his presentation on what he's got tonight. I want to apologize. Tonight was supposed to be a presentation on photographing your layouts and stuff like that. The guy that was going to do our presentation on that, he had to drop out, so I had to find somebody to take that spot. We're going to go ahead and do that on the 21st of April instead of tonight. So to further ado, here is Bill Van Linton with his 50 years of experience of model railroading. Bill, take it away, buddy.
Thanks, dude. I've been doing this for a long time. Started out in O scale, running around a Christmas tree, and then we went to S scale because it was more realistic. Still wanted more in a small space, a 4x8, so we went to HO. And that kind of grew into a huge layout. And after having being flooded out of my home, that was all dismantled and sold off. And I went into live steam and did that for a few years, even opened a company of my own, building for other people. And I will suggest one thing: if you have a hobby, don't make it a business, because you'll lose your mind over it. You don't get time to play with your own. So after all that, got too old to be doing track work, and club that we had disbanded, so we decided to go into a small gauge, and we wanted to put a lot of track work down onto a smaller area, so we went to N gauge. And my original N scale layout was in a 7x17.5 travel trailer. It toured around the south here for a little bit, and then of course the trailer with its age started coming apart, so now we're going to start building a new layout. But to start in some of the presentations, the first thing I want to do is bring up some of my modeling history, and if I can get over to here and bring up a few pictures. Okay, let's start with a short YouTube video here. This is just one of our local hobby shops or the only local hobby shop we have. And this shows what was left of my HO scale. Whoops, not wanting to start.
There you go, Bill. Just make it full screen now.
Okay, this is Dana's Railroad Supply. Once a month we have an outdoor swap meet, and that section that you're looking at right now is the section that came off my layout. It starts to the left of this. Those are trees I made. And it starts right in here where this bridge is and continues on to the left. It's the only signals they have on the railroad is what I had on that. The black section by this green building over here was added on. Now
Is
they
that
run one track DC.
Is that HO scale or?
Yeah, this is HO scale. And the track with the train going west is DC. The double steamers coming east is DCC. They have one track dedicated to those that are still running DC. That's 4.5 years in the making of this layout. Okay, now that's HO scale. And let me get out of that. And with building signal systems, trees, and the track work and all on that, was taking from my layout when I sold everything off, and it was Dana incorporated into his. He said he would love to have a section of my railroad on his, so there it is. Then later we went into live steam, and let's see, can't seem to grab things here too easy. Don't want to play games. Can't see where it was dumped. There it is. Okay. Let's bring up. Huh. Some pictures didn't want to come in. Okay. Bring this up larger. It's not doing it, is it? Try this again. There we go. That was the first engine I ever built in live steam. was actually built out of scrap metal, and the body was made of cardboard and then fiberglassed over. And detail parts were purchased from some live steam suppliers. Didn't turn out too bad for being what it is.
Bill, I'm seeing a diesel, not a steam.
Yeah, live steam is a definition of the scale. When you talk 7.5-inch gauge, you call it live steam, and we do have diesel engines. Also have steam, actual steam. But that was the, like we said, definition of the. And the reason why I built it is for the kids, so they could have fun with it. My grandkids, and my niece, and the one in the middle is a guest.
Did you have a complete machine shop and all that too,
Yeah.
Bill?
Yes, yes, I do. Still have it. Um, yeah, I built engines for other people, and I seem to have disappeared off the screen. Okay, there I am. After people were looking at that engine, when they asked if I would build them one, asked how much it would be, and that was all electric. So I built another one for someone else, and I built a different style for another person. I started building out of steel until finally the last one I did was the C424 that went to a museum in St. Constant, Ontario. And it was a Canadian Pacific Railroad Museum up there. And I did an engine, 10 riding cars, and a caboose for them. So now I'm in N scale. And I enjoy building the structures for it. I'm doing the Delaware and Hudson from Carbondale, Pennsylvania to Albany, New York. And every building to be on the layout has to be scratch built because there is no kits available for those buildings. And I like building in cardboard. So people say, well, cardboard, that looks toy-like, or it's not realistic. Well, I have one building here. You click on my screen, you can see the building itself. It's an old grain elevator from back in the 20s. And it's made of cardboard, cereal boxes to be exact. And you take your cardboard and a small rounded tip awl scribe or the back of an X-Acto knife, you can mark all your lines in the cardboard and it will stay there once you paint it. You can put roof details in it. I use little pieces of balsa to do the roof vents with, but everything is cardboard. So if you're looking to start out and you want to kit bash something or you want to scratch build something, don't be afraid to use cardboard. Uh, if you make mistakes, get another cereal box and start over. Um, if you make a mistake with balsa wood, it can get costly. Balsa these days is not cheap. Another example of cardboard is I built this little tugboat because I needed one of this style and they didn't have one in N scale. So I had to produce a tugboat out of cardboard. Again, cereal boxes. And you can make some beautiful models out of them. They're inexpensive. The only thing you have in them is your paints, maybe weathering chalk, or a little bit of super glue. And you can turn out some beautiful models with it.
Bill,
The object
when you build something like that tugboat, did you have an actual per se diagram to build that off of, or anything like that, or did you just come up with the design on your own?
Actually, it was embedded into my mind of a tugboat that I saw up on Erie Canal, the entranceway to Erie Canal, and the old coal loading docks that up there that they're no longer using. But the tug was at the dock, and I looked at it, and I kind of embedded what it looked like, and I decided just to build it. I had no plans for it or anything. Now the grain elevator, there was a plan for that I found online from the Cherry Valley area, which is also a small extension off of the D&H. And I had her scale it to N scale and then make it out of the cardboard. I have other plans. You can go online, find specific types of buildings that you would like to model, and size them out. Now, the thing is, I put that through the computer and download it into a thing called the Cricut, which is a craft machine. It cuts craft paper. It'll cut up to 25 thousandths. The only thing is I can't get it to work with styrene because the blade doesn't want to turn in the styrene, but because it's on a swivel. But in cardboard it works fine. You can cut your building out and put it together that way. But you can go online and find different building plans. Some of them are to the scale. Most of them would actually be an HO scale, but there are some that's in N scale, such as this creamery building. That's in N scale. Download, print it out. Now you have something to copy from. You take the same program that you downloaded and put it into the program for the Cricut and run it through, and it'll actually cut it out for you. So it's something to think about working with cardboard. Paper models. Sven has worked with paper on his layout. Today you can get and download off your computer a photogenic type of photograph and have it scaled to your size that looks like a photograph of a building or he's using on containers. They look real. Um, they have the definition and the weathering, everything already on it. You cut out your uh, paper and paste it to cardboard and assemble it. And if you use 3D effects such as ladders, stairwells, cut the windows out and use regular windows from an old modeling kit, or like I do, buy them off of eBay and buy a whole box of leftover windows and stuff from people and use it in there. You can produce a building that is worthy of being on a layout. And unless you put your eyeball right on the thing, it's gonna, they're great for background buildings because they look so real. Uh, in the front of your layout, I would suggest using, kits or something of that nature to where you have something more lifelike. Now, Sven is showing on the containers that he made from print. They're paper, and they look real. And if you have something that's photogenic and you're taking pictures of your layout, this stuff, you can't tell the difference. And
Wow, those are amazing that Sven was holding.
and that is paper.
Now, what did they put? What did Sven? What did you put those on? I mean, do they have like cardboard backing or what?
Yeah, this is at the moment just the mock-up, the first test print. Yeah, and I have a little bit of cardboard in the back just to hold the shape. Yeah, but I will go ahead and replace the cardboard with styrene and then print those containers on photo paper.
Well, it's funny that you show those in this presentation, because when I saw them on your layout, I thought there were actual container cars sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean.
And the thing with those is, based off of a Google Street View shot of those containers, and then manipulated and scaled to size in GIMP.
Wow.
And you can't buy this brand, until you're in line. You can't find any model containers with this shipping line.
So that's what I'm saying. There's some things that you would like to have on your layout that you cannot purchase. And if you want to replicate something that you see, Sven did a Google street shot and took pictures of it and modeled it. You can size it up and down to whatever your needs are. Don't be afraid to try paper. Don't be afraid to try cardboard. You can make some fantastic things out of them.
Well, Bill, can you take your own pictures? Login Local JD as a question here. Can you take your own pictures? Well, I guess you just answered that question, because you just said that if you see something and you're not going to be able to find a replica of that anywhere in the models. So basically, Login or JD's question is, can you even take your own pictures and print to paper in a color? And that just answered the question right there.
Dude, it wasn't a question. It was just a statement, because
okay.
The point is, you can customize a background that you can't find anywhere else. Print it to paper, put it on foam, put it on cardboard.
So basically, what Sven just showed is right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the point is, you're not limited to something that's downloadable that somebody's done or buying from the store. The point is, take the leap, take your own photograph, and trust in yourself and having a custom background that will work in your layout.
Right. Okay.
Right. The same thing, modeling the D&H. Some of the buildings are still there. I went up and took a 4-view pictures, front, back, both sides, to bring them in. Now these are pictures. Now I'm going to scale these and make them out of balsa. There's a few others that I will be making out of cardboard. But I can get realism in any material that I'm using. And like Sven says, you know, if you can't find something that you need, look on Google. Like he did, a screenshot and save it and model it. There's companies out there that sell paper. They're I don't know if I should. No, I'm not going to advertise. But anyway, there are some that you can buy material, printed out material to make your own buildings. There are others that have pre-printed buildings that you just back them up with cardboard and you put them together. Like I said, it has the weathering and everything already on them. They look realistic, and if you add your 3D effects to them, you can't tell that they're not plastic or balsa, or you know. Just make sure that you coat them with a matte coating over the surface of them to stop the ink from deteriorating. So, any other questions?
Well, there is a question from Randy Ford, and congratulations, Randy, for joining the team. Can you give him any hints on weathering a solid black 25 500-gallon tanker car? If you could answer that question, you're going to answer some questions that I have, because I have some of the same issues.
It's a black tanker car. Okay, now this is going to depend on what it hauls. There's always spillage. If you're hauling, say, like some of the trains here in Florida, if they're hauling sulfur, you're going to have some yellow weathering around the top of the tank, and it's going to run down the sides of it. You can use acrylics to do this, and if you make a mistake, you can wash it off and try it again. Use yellow and light brown powders over top of it to simulate spillover to where it's not just the solid amount to come out. If you're using oil, take gloss black and make it lines down the sides of it to where it looks like the oil has spilled out when loading it. Gasoline and stuff, fuel oils and all that doesn't show very much. You might want to dull coat it some so it looks like it's been washed down with a gas or something like that. Black cars are usually ATX cars, and you're going to be hauling mostly chemicals and things of that nature. So pick what you're going to be hauling with it and what colors your material is, and use those colors. And then when you're finished coloring your material, then dull coat it, and then take I prefer airbrushing, but if you use an airbrush and go along the bottom of the car, put up a little very, very light coat of gray, medium gray. You don't want to actually change the color, you just want to mist it. You can do the trucks the same way and then go back with some browns and dark brown for a natural age rust. Lighter browns and orange colors for brighter rust. That is, you know, it's just been wet for the last, say, month or so, and it still has that brightness to it. Coat your wheels with it. That gives you a good weathering of the car itself.
He says in his area they haul a lot of vegetable oil.
Okay, vegetable oil would be like a motor oil. For vegetable oils and things that light, I would use clear nail polish. If it's a plastic model, get the nail polish that won't eat plastic. That gives you this light, very light but shiny coating on there that looks like it's a vegetable oil. And then dust it with a very, very light yellow powder, very lightly, and then dull coat it.
You know, Randy, you know what I do is we have a short line, a branch line that here is in my hometown, and I work on cars for a living. And when I go on test drives, I go down next to the tracks all the time, and I make sure I have my cell phone with me because I have a lot of cars that come into this area on my layout. And what I do is I take some pictures of some of the cars, and I took some pictures of some cars that I'm going to share right now. And these are cars that I took just here at the beginning of March. These are hopper cars that go to the that we have a paper mill here, so there's a lot of pot ash that they use in the mill. And these are cars, some of them were new, like freshly painted. These are older cars that had a lot of rust on them, and I thought that these cars would be really cool to imitate in my layout, you know, because I have some of these cars on my layout. And, you know, that's something that I do. Is I go down, if you've got tracks next to your where you live, I go down there and I take pictures of certain cars. I took some pictures of some tanker cars here not too long ago. I don't have them on my computer yet, but that gives you a good idea to you know, to start out from. And then you could, like Bill was saying, you know, use different colors and stuff like that before you actually put them on your car. Take an old piece of plastic or whatever you can find and do some experimenting before you actually put them on your cars. I mean, that's what I do, so that you don't ruin a car. And sometimes, I mean, if you use paints, you would, but a lot of guys use chalks, and if you use chalks, you can actually wash the chalks off and start over, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point of taking pictures. Those hopper cars that you showed, the one showed a lot of heavy rusting on it. That I would use a brown acrylic on that. The other car had very light rust, and with that I would use some orange powders. And then, of course, dull coat everything on top so it fixes it there.
Now, Bill, do you use any kind of a alcohol-based wash to achieve some of those streaking effects, particularly for tanker cars and hopper cars like Dude showed?
Yes, you can. On a black car, it's kind of hard to really simulate things using a wash because it wants to run and go all over the place. But if you're using like box cars and things like that, you can use a light wash. You can take some chalks of what colors you want and scrape it down into a small cup and add a few drops of alcohol and make an alcohol wash out of it that you can use on your cars. I also do that on building structures.
Yeah, I've had some success with that, even on a black tanker car, because the alcohol tends to etch and bring the white out. Give it that white ashy look. Then you put rubbing alcohol on the black plastic.
Yeah, you have to watch some of the kits though, especially in my scale, because a lot of the plastics are not the same as what they use on some of the HO gauge in larger
That's true.
plastic cars. And alcohol, using it in too much of a strength of it, can actually melt the outer surface of the plastic.
Yeah.
And you don't want to ruin a car that way either. So
Yeah, you do have to be careful. I wanted to share something that I built years ago in terms of cardboard structure. And this is just a shed, and got 3 dimensions here. So it's an actual piece on top. And the brick pattern I created on the computer, same thing as the roof pattern, and printed on paper, and then created a matching chimney that goes on the side here, and as well as another shed that goes with it. And this was my very first experiment with cardboard. The only issue I've seen over the years with cardboard, and this is something I think you have to keep in mind, is the warping. So, the question I have for you, Bill, is, this is purely scratch built. Even the brick pattern's designed custom. How do you keep the warping from the cardboard over the years?
back it up with foam board. You can use 1/4-inch foam board and actually paint the inside. Because the coating on the foam board is a plastic that you can use acrylics and even mottled enamel or Krylon paint on it, and paint the inside of it and glue it to the back of your cardboard. It'll stop the warping.
Okay, so that's in addition to the cardboard, right? Because you can see this is not the most straightest.
Well, for having it already made, yes. Otherwise, I would have used just a foam board and put the paper on a foam board.
Got it.
Hey, Bill, what types of glues? I mean, I know that there's just so many glues out there, and that's like me, I mean, I've been in the model railroading since like '95. I mean, longer. I mean, I've been getting model railroader magazines since I was a kid, but there's a lot of questions on what types of glues to use. When it comes to cardboard, what is the best type of glue to use when it comes to actual gluing cardboard together? I know the foam, like foam board. I know that if you put a certain type of glue on foam board, it'll attack it. It might dissolve it. It might not even cure to it. I mean, so what types of glues do you use?
Okay, good question, and I was just going to tell JD about that. Doing a foam board, if you're going to put paper straight on the foam board, the best thing that I found is old Mucinex. That's the stuff they used to sell to put stamps and stuff on envelopes and all. Elmer's has it in these tubes, and it's called a glue pen, but it's the old style Mucinex.
The old, what they call the gum?
No, it's not a gum. It's a thick liquid, and it has an applicator on it that you can wipe across. And but it's called Mucinex. Now that's the best to use putting paper to foam board, because it won't eat the foam board. Putting paper on cardboard, I use Old Elmer's glue stick. That's a white.
These were done with Elmer's glue. The only issue I came across is if too much, you get warped the paper.
Exactly.
Right, you get wrinkles in it. But you can see over the years, like the paper starting to come apart here. Yep. And that was because I used a glue stick here. I got a little lazy and used a glue stick. And Elmer's, in fact. And it's not, you need to go back and clean up and fix this.
Well, the thing is, when you're putting your glue down, make sure it's thick. If you get a light coat of it, it's going to separate, because you're going to get a certain amount of moisture that cardboard is going to absorb.
Right.
So make sure it's thick when you put it on. Putting the cardboard buildings together, I use I buy these in a long strip. I've got one here. I go to flea market, dollar stores, and I pick up for 99 cents a pack of 10. That way you're not letting it harden up by not using it.
Right.
Oh, so that's just normal super glue.
Normal super glue. And that's what I used to do to cardboard, put it together. It's a cheap way to go, but the results are the same. And then for putting, what's that?
And I had, a lot of luck with using a paintbrush on the Elmers to get it nice and smooth across the whole surface.
Yes, you can. Use a foam brush.
Foam brush, or just even a regular paintbrush, or cheap paintbrush, lightly moistened.
Now, when I put a balsa kits together, I like using the slower set gel. That way, I can hold it and it'll harden up on me. I don't like using accelerators as much on if I'm doing a plastic model because it leaves a film on there that won't accept paint. Also, if you get it on the face, it could distort your tiny brickwork on N scale. So, yeah, that's about the different types of glues. I use, if I'm putting styrene together, of course, I use the old liquid welder, plastic weld, and a micro brush. Don't use a brush if it comes with one because it puts too much on and you can get a disintegration of the surface that you're trying to use. Hobby Lobby, most of your model hobby shops and all, sells packages of micro brushes. They're tiny little tips on them, and that'll put just enough of the liquid styrene cement on there, this styrene cement is capillary effect. So if you just dip this in and come up the side with it, it's going to go in between your two surfaces that's being glued and fasten it together.
Can you buy those little brushes that you just had there? That has like a felt tip on it, right?
Yeah.
Now, can you buy those at like Walmart? I mean, because the only thing we got here in my town is like I never looked to see if like Joann's Fabrics. If Joann's is a craft store too. I mean, can you get those at Walmart?
I have not found them at Walmart. I find them at hobby shops. I find them at Michael's, Hobby Lobby. We have a Joann's down here too, and it's mainly fabrics that they use for crafts and all. They don't have a big craft section. I mean, you can buy beads and stuff like that, but
I think best you'll do close to hobby wise at Joann Fabrics is like the Sobo glue or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can buy these online also. Micromark sells them, and a few other online people.
When you do your cardboard structures, Bill, do you use for like the seams where like a wall and the roof or whatever comes together? Do you put like a structural piece in there, another like a strip of cardboard to make that stronger where the two come together, or do you just bond them together? I mean,
on certain items to make sure that you're going to have the strength and to stop warpage, I will back it up with another piece of cardboard. I've taken cardboard and cut a score mark in it to bend it over and make it into an angle, and then run glue down that score to keep it as an angle, and then stick it up inside there and glue it, and that way you have a good strong joint.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, Bill, because, like, for example, again, with this, these are two pieces folded in an L shape, and then there was an extension piece that I cut out for it to go inside the other to join to make it a backing. Like an extra tab that came out of each piece.
Right.
I really like that piece you got there, JD, because the brick
dimension at the bottom too.
Yeah, the brick looks three-dimensional. I mean, from here, it looks like the actual brick. It looks like brick. I mean, just from the video. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
Cardboard inside completely.
Now, when I do balsa, of course, like I said, in scale, we're talking tiny little structures that fit on your fingertip. On this control tower, I even backed up the inside of this with pieces of balsa to make sure that it's going to stay strong, it's not going to warp, not going to come apart. And when doing the roofs of these, of this type here, I don't know if you can see trying to get it to focus. It's not wanting to. But anyway, you can see each individual shingle on there. And the shingle on this is, I go to a grocery store or a convenience store, and I ask them for paper bags. And they want to give me, they say, first once they say, well, we don't have no paper bags. I said, no, you're small paper bags, like a lunch style. Sometimes I can get them for free. Other times I'll go to a place, a grocery store, where I can buy a whole pack of brown paper bags, lunch bags. And the reason why you want the small ones is because they're thinner and easier to work with. And I'll cut them into, for end scale, 1/8 wide strips for the whole length. And then I'll go back in and I'll put a straight edge down half of that, so it's 1/16 of an inch. And take an X-Acto knife and cut vertical lines all the way down that strip. And then I'll coat them with India ink and alcohol wash, and then put a flat board over them till they dry. And then pick them up. I have a flat strip of black shingles, and then I just cut them to length and stick them and lay them up in layers as you're going up, just like you would putting shingles on a roof. And after you just put on the non-cut surface of that, leave the cut surface loose. And then you go back a little bit later with an X-Acto knife and just pick up a few of the shingles here and there and make it look like they've been windblown. So, I mean, you can do that in HO gauge. You can do that N scale. You could probably even do it in S scale, O gauge. It just, you have to scale out the size that you're going to have. Are there any other questions?
So you're making the shingles, the individual shingles, are out of just a small brown paper bag, then?
Yes, that's it.
Like
wow.
Right?
Then you can finish coloring them if you want them darker. Usually they'll come up with a little bit of a brownish gray color from the wash. You can leave it like that, but if you want it a little darker after you've got them on your model, then you can go back over them with a little bit of thin acrylic paint and alcohol mix, and just brush them again, give them a darker tone.
Yeah, that's a lot cheaper than actually going out and buying something that has a brick formation on it. I never
Well,
thought of that idea.
well, it's like I said, I've been doing this for like 53 years, and I learned a lot of tricks down the road. Um, it's one of the things that I met John Allen many, many years ago, and took a tour of his layout. I was just a young fellow at the time, and he told me one thing, and I told him there's no way I could do something like that. He says, anybody can. Just do it. Experiment. Do a little bit of something. If you don't like it, change it. He says it's all in the mind's eye.
Now, are you using? Have you ever experimented with using masking tape for roofs?
I have. I don't like it because masking tape has a chemical in it that it'll be okay when you first do it, but after a year, the paint wants to flake off of it, or it wants to get to a point where it's lighter than it should be.
Is that because of coating on top?
Yeah, yeah. And it's a non-stick surface on the top of it, and it just doesn't want to work as well. What I'd rather do is take a little bit of white Elmer's glue, thin it down just a little bit, and coat whatever your surface is for a roofing, and take tissue paper and put in there, and you can get the same effect. Just use strips of tissue paper. Toilet.
Yeah, the issue with masking tape is the glue hardens out within 2-3 years, and then the tape just falls off.
Yep.
That's true.
Looks good when you first do it, but there's no longevity.
Videos out there, people using masking tape to line it up and put that in, cut the shingles in, and then go to the next level and so on, like up the side, up the roof to the roof line.
I've seen that. I have done that. I won't do it again. There's no longevity in it.
What about construction paper? Maybe not for the scale that you're doing, but for maybe HO or larger scales.
Well, you can use it for this scale too. There are different thicknesses of construction paper. You can get them all the way down to, I think it's 2.2 mil. But yeah, construction paper can be used. Browns and blacks for roofing is great. You can get the thicker stuff. You can actually make side boards and all out of it. You can do a clapboard structure with construction paper.
Yeah, you can cut it in strips and overlay each other for boards.
Right, exactly.
Vertically or horizontally.
What about actual tar paper? I mean, have you ever used just plain old tar paper? I mean, I know it might be a little on the thick side, but like flat roofs and stuff, would tar paper work really good?
Okay, they do have a real thin paper, tar paper. Lowe's and Home Depot sell it. It's what they call an underlayment, and you can use some of that. Usually, if you got a mobile home place that's setting up and they're going to put an underlayment under the trailer, you can get some of it. It's lightweight, it's thin, and ask them if you can have a piece of it. Usually, you get maybe 3 to 5 feet of this stuff given to you. For flat roofs, it's perfect. You can actually cut it and lay it down to looks like it has seams in it. Get a little bit of a gloss black, go along the seam, and make it look like it's been tarred. Then when you're done with that, take a little bit of powders to do your weathering, and before you dull coat it, you get some talcum powder and just a couple of pinches of it and spread it over the top of the roof, and then dull coat it. It will look like it has that grayness coming up out of the tar paper that you see in real life.
What, Bill? There is one question from Philip Wyman here. What type of paint would you use? So let's say, and this is the number one question that's always been asked. I mean, because I know that when it comes to balsa wood, and I think cardboard would probably, do the same thing. When you're painting a balsa wood structure or a cardboard structure, paint will make it warp, I would think. So what type of paints would you recommend, or how would you paint a cardboard structure?
Okay. Um, this one was done with an acrylic from a spray can, old rattle can. If you do it in light coats, it's not going to warp. The paint will seal the cardboard and stop it from warping. And I just do several light coats over it. This was used with a gray and then lightly dusted on the outside with a silver to give it the metal effect to it. And then I went back and weathered in some of the rust. On the tugboat, I used enamels. Enamels have a chemical compound, model enamels. They're actually an oil-based paint, and this will stop the cardboard from warping and put you a nice coloring on there. You always go back later with your dusting powders and all and your dull coats to make it look more of a used item instead of the shininess of a new one. But that's basically the treatments for cardboard or thin balsa. Now, the heavier balsa.
How long ago did you build that tug?
Oh, just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
I was doing it on the Hangouts.
I was taking a nap. He was doing it on a hangout that I was supposed to be in, but I was taking a nap.
Uh-huh. You were watching a movie, so
the reason I asked was I wanted to see,
right.
How long it lasted from, do you expect any warping to occur over time on that tugboat?
No, it's been a couple of weeks. It has had nothing. If I have two backup areas on it, it has a deck, has the bottom, and then a deck, and then another piece on top. So it's basically strong to where it's not going to really warp on me. But when you get these, like this balsa, I used acrylics on it because it's small and it's not going to warp. But when you get something a little bigger, of course, like I said, I'm in N scale. But when you get buildings a little bit bigger, such as this ice house, icing platform, I use acrylics on it, but I don't use a thin wash. I stay away from the thin washes on balsa. The bigger the structure, the less wash you want to use. So you paint them in lighter colors and then darken them as you want to go.
So basically, if you do a wash is going to allow more moisture. The balsa wood's going to absorb that moisture more, and that's going to allow it to work.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, like I told Andy, he was going to do a wash on his. He wanted to do an India ink wash on it. And he said he didn't know whether it was balsa or basswood. And I told him, I said, okay, basswood is not going to warp on you. Balsa will. So he gave it the wash and it started to warp. I said, okay, that's balsa wood. So I told him to get something flat and heavy enough to set on top of it and let it weight it down until it dries. And that stops the warpage. Now, this is if you do your buildings before you build them. I recommend doing all your painting and your servicing and everything before you assemble your buildings. Then just touch up the corners and all. Too many people have actually built the building first and then, well, like the railings on that, the 4x4s that supposedly hold the platform up. Of course, you have to assemble that whole thing before you paint it. But always paint your wooden buildings or your your wooden buildings before you assemble them. Cardboard, on the other hand, once you paint them, it's not going to go together right. So you want to paint them after you assemble them.
Well, I got a question for you, Bill. This
Okay.
is very thin. I don't know if you recognize this. This is cedar.
Yeah, it's like a wrapper from a cigar.
That's exactly what it is. I've got a bunch of these, and I got a bag full of them. So
Oh, wow.
was, I've designed my own buildings on using Microsoft Visio and CAD tools and such.
Right.
Although the ones that I showed you, I just did it on the fly. I never designed it, just built it, from scratch.
Right.
What I was thinking about doing was using a knife to cut strips and layering those either as roof material or as boards to look like either decking board or vertical boards for a shack.
That
And I
can
would
be,
imagine these would pick up a lot of moisture and warp a lot.
yeah.
That may be good and that may be bad, depending on the look you want to go.
You would have to make sure you had glue spread on the whole thing.
Yeah.
To where it's going to stay put and not warp on you. Now, I have used them in the past to make real cedar shake shingles, and they look beautiful if you sit and take the time to cut your little tiny little sections on the bottom of it and corrugate it and everything else.
It's very nice and shiny, it's like real wood.
Yeah, it is real
Very
wood.
good layer of it.
Yep, it is real wood. It's micro cut.
Smells good too.
If you take those and put them in the sink, let them soak in some warm water for a little bit, and take them out and put you something heavy on top and hold them down, they'll go back to its original flat shape.
Now, this is before cutting it into strips, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then paint it prior to cutting, or?
No, cedar I would go ahead and cut first.
Okay. I may not even need to paint because the color by itself is very nice tonality too for a shack building.
Like I said, I've made cedar shake shingles out of them. Even for end scale, they turn out perfect. It's tedious work cutting each one out individually, but it makes such a beautiful model. In fact, the model, I did an HO scale model that I actually won in the NMRA contest with had real cedar shake shingles on it.
Right, and I don't know if I can pop up the design that I did, so you might get a sense of what I'm going to be putting this on. So you can see, and the tabs, we talked about the tabs for gluing. Dude, you were mentioning, how do you for support, and the red lines are where you would just score it to fold.
Yeah, score it and fold it, and you can glue to that, and then add another piece over top of it. What I would do is actually put that on the cardboard first, cut it out, cut the tabs off, and then make my angle pieces and add those to it. That way I have a full
The idea
glue.
that I had thought was maybe, because this is a sides, these are the two end to ends, and then you would just cut this and score and fold it around, and you form, a shed there, and you cut the roof and score it and fold it right over, and then these tabs would hold that roof, and this would be used to glue to the opposite end here.
But you don't have a whole lot of strength to it though with those tabs. That's why I say I would cut the tabs off and make angle pieces with the cardboard.
Okay, so like an L bracket.
Yeah.
Lengthwise L brackets, double the width of the tab.
Right, and that way you would have something to really hold that roof to it.
Okay,
and I would use foam core on that. It's easier to cut the windows out.
Now you can translate this to styrene.
Oh, you're going to do styrene?
I don't know yet. I have not decided. Again, I'm experimenting, sort of learning, and I've designed it using the software tool, and I'm thinking of putting those cigar wraps to make the sidings. And the windows and doors are sized to Tichy windows, or Tyche windows, however you say it.
Yeah, I don't work with styrene. Don't really care for it. I'd rather do the balsa, basswoods, and cardboard.
What would you recommend, Bill? So I print this out. You know, this is my pattern. It's on paper. I can transfer it.
Actually,
and the other, idea is to maybe build the background pattern into this, the shingles and all of that into this, as like, for example, what Swen did, and just go ahead and build that into this here. Import that as a background and just go ahead, make it fit.
Yeah, I would use a foam board, the thin 1/8" foam board, and that'd make the windows and doors easier to cut out, and backing for the roof would give you the strength, and then you could add anything you wanted to the outside of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Any particular thickness of any mill or?
Foam board, 1/8".
1/8".
Yeah,
is 1/8 inch the thinnest that you can get in foam board?
Yes.
Okay, I have a suggestion. Anybody that I picked this up from, I went to a store that we have here in town that you can go and get painting supplies for, like painting, pictures and stuff like that for people that are true artists, Yeah.
Artist supply. Yeah.
And when I was in there, I was asking for some certain types of paints and like Indian inks and stuff. He says, I don't carry anything like that. And what do you want it for? And I told him what I'm doing. He says, hey, well, I know something that you might be interested in. And I said, what's that? And he says, most picture places that frame pictures for customers, they use foam board for backing to put the picture to back it, And he goes, I've got all kinds of foam board that I'll just give you. It's scraps, anywhere from 4 inches to 10 inches to 3 inches or 3 feet long, and he just gave it to me. So all of you guys that want to use foam board for certain stuff, go to those stores. I bet you they'll give you all their scraps to you for free.
Yeah, Michael's here has a framing shop in the back. I'll see if I can go talk to them.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, he gave me quite a bit. I was like, wow, I could, because I know like Gino Sharp, he uses that foam board for like his highways and his sidewalks and stuff. And so I was like, because that stuff's not cheap when you go to and you buy it. I mean,
no, it's not.
No, and what do you care? Like, if it's in the back of the structure, what do you care the quality of that foam board in terms of
exactly.
cleanliness?
Yeah.
Right? As long as you can glue to it, and even if you can glue a couple pieces down at the corners, it doesn't matter.
Well, this is a quick pause for our presentation here. I just want to put another, let everybody know that, you guys can always go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com to see all the latest news and everything that the YouTube Model Builders team is putting out. Just to let you guys know that the next live show is April 18th at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's going to be a really kind of an open question show. They really aren't going to have a specific topic on that live show. I know that the anniversary show, just to let everybody know, if you guys go to the website, the anniversary show for YouTube Model Builders Live is in May, and it's May 16th, and you guys will probably really want to go and check that show out, because I think they're going to have some really cool stuff for the anniversary show. And they're going to bring all the existing panel members that actually was on the show during that time. So that might be a pretty interesting show. But like I say, you know, if you guys want to get all the latest news and EMAG, go to the website, and you guys can sign up for the EMAG. And you, like I said, I don't know, JD, how many subscribers do we got right now for the EMAG?
I think we have total subscribers to the website itself. I think we've got over 400, 500 some.
And if they subscribe for the EMAG, they automatically get it emailed to them, right?
What happens is you get a link emailed to them automatically.
Okay.
Because you know, the magazine itself is too heavy of a file size to send. So you can download it at your leisure, and you can view it online at your leisure. It's just the same.
And anybody that wants to, you know, if you've got a really cool article, I know that they're always looking for articles to be published into the EMAG and stuff like that. Just go to the web page, and you can contact somebody there to submit your article as well. And they're looking to look for pictures and stuff like that of people's layouts and stuff like that.
If I can make a quick mention on that, yeah, you can. There's a link to send an email to a YouTube Model Builders EMAG mailbox. So, and then there's also guidelines there as well on how to make the submission. So we're always looking for articles, like you said, and also for photographs, high-quality photographs of your layout that we can put it into a collage. So that's another thing to, you know, showcase yourself to the EMAG and to the other folks out there in the community. And, you know, since we're on the topic right now about custom builds and so forth, the upcoming issue is going to be somewhat focused on weathering and on, as a theme, on custom building engines or other structures and stuff that's more from a scratch build perspective. So, you know, this conversation that we're having now is right up the alley of the upcoming issue.
Exactly.
So any articles that people want to submit for that within the next month, you know, that would be a great opportunity to go ahead and submit an article now. Again, you know, I put the address there in the chat. You can go there and check out and click on the EMAG logo and find out more information there.
Yeah, and so I mean the EMAG has I know a lot of guys have gone there and read it, and it's some really good stuff, you know. And JD has done an exceptional job on putting it together, and you know, this team has worked really hard to get this information out. And the nice thing about it is it's absolutely free, you know. And so. But anyways, you know, while we're on the subject, Bill has done some scratch build stuff. I know that he's been, you know, Jim said, well, live steam, and you know, but he's doing a scratch build on a in-scale locomotive now, and I kind of hope maybe he can present that a little bit and talk about that build that he's doing. And Troy from Pacific North Central, he's doing a scratch build as well. He's doing some upgrades on a locomotive that he's going to be doing, and maybe he can bring up some presentation on something that he's doing too. And to let all of our viewers know that the presentations are going to be changing here in the next month or so, and it's going to be on the good side, because there's going to be some really good presenters that's going to come out and support the YouTube team. So, but anyways, Bill, if you have something, that locomotive that you've been showing us here lately that you've been scratch building, I think the viewers would really like to see that. Before you get started on that, I do have, I don't know if it's a question or an idea here. Randy Ford says that he placed an order, an HO scale, ordered an HO scale truck and trailer rig for harvest hauling. He just received it today, in scale stuff by UPS. The driver's side mirror was, what is that, disintegrated in the pack, or I guess it was, yeah, disattached. Can you repair something like that?
You can. Take your little super glue and put it on a piece of plastic or metal, whatever you have laying around, an old lid from a Pringles can, anything, and take a pair of tweezers and dip the piece into it, and then just kind of set it up to where you get two pieces together, align it to where it should be, and just hold it for a second and let that dry. Then you'll be able to attach it to the vehicle. I've had a lot of things, pieces and kits in the past on HO gauge that have I've purchased the kits. They've been banged around so much in shipping through either UPS or the mail, get thrown into the trucks and stuff like that. And I've had to repair a lot of pieces. And when it comes to styrene, super glue works great. If they're made of metal, super glue will still hold it. Just make sure that you get it aligned properly and glue it in place.
So on your little scratch build locomotive that you're building, I think what it was, it's a Camelback, right?
Yeah.
Good evening, Troy.
Yeah, it's not finished yet.
Good evening.
I still have to do the trailing truck on it. But N scale, nobody makes Camelbacks. So if you want them, and I need a bunch of them, doing the Delaware and Hudson, so I need to actually build my own. And let me get my display can up here. That is the engine. And of course it gets a tender behind it.
Now, what actually is that locomotive starts out to be when you start doing the scratch build? What does that actually start out to be?
Originally, it was a Bachmann 260, and the tender was a slope back, and which 260 never used slope back tenders, so whoever designed the model didn't do it properly. So I went ahead and took the shell off, took the cab off the back, moved the cab up to the center of it, and then used thin styrene to build the Wooten firebox on the rear. And I had a tender sitting around, wasn't doing anything, so I decided to use it behind the engine. And I need to put I have the two-wheel truck for the front, but I need to put a two-wheel trailing truck. But as you take the shell off, it leaves the innards. Now, if you look at the shell, it has the air tanks on the back and the little canopy over the rear where the fireman stood.
Can you put any more light on it, Bill? It's hard to see.
Well, if I do, it's going to be too bright.
Yeah, that's actually a lot better.
Okay.
Up just a little bit.
Blinding me, though. But,
so now, when they say that's a Camelback, what do they mean by Camelback?
Okay. Many years ago, back in the 1870s, a fella built an engine called the Camel that had the cab in the middle. Of course, the back of it was sloped down, so it looked like it was a camel with a hump. Later on, in the early 1900s, they started building these engines out of regular steam engines, putting the cabs up in the center so they could get the big firebox on the back to burn the anthracite coal. Anthracite is a very slow burning, low heat coal. So you have to use a lot of it and have a lot of air under it to get it to burn properly. So they started building engines like this, and they got to be a very efficient engine for pulling. And the name, of course, like I said, comes from the fact that the hump is in the middle. Called it a Camelback.
Huh. Very neat.
And
so now the coal for those, is the coal like big chunks of coal, or is it like a powder form, or what?
no, it's a good sized chunk of coal. But anthracite was what was mined out of the northern Pennsylvania, southern New York areas. It wasn't readily available in other parts of the country, and it was some of the first coals that were mined in the U.S. And they started using the Delaware and Hudson had actually started out with a canal, and they call it the off the Delaware ancillary. They called it the Delaware and Hudson Canal. It was man-made, but it only had a 5-foot depth, and they used canal boats to ship the coal. Now, the original railroad that they came up with was a non-engine type. In other words, the cars were brought up one side with a cable as the ones on the other side were let down. And it had the double effect of going back and forth like this, dumping the 2 cars each section, taking them down and dumping them to where they could go onto the canal boats. In 1889, the then owners of the Delaware and Hudson decided that they were going to put a track up a grade to go over to the top of the mountain where the coal mine was, instead of running this inefficient 2-car each trip back and forth unit. And so they started sending regular steam locomotives up there with a whole train full of cars. And they said, well, why just dump it here at the canal? Why not just extend the track on up and take it over to the Hudson River that way? And then was born the Delaware and Hudson Railroad. And I have to model every bit of that, and nothing, like I said, nothing on that line, all the buildings that I have pictures of, all the placements and all, there is no kits made for it. I have found only a handful of structures that I could download prints from, that I have to actually kit bash that to make it look like the building that was in the pictures. So I have a lot of work ahead of me. And for those that's interested in wanting to follow what we're doing, I do have a YouTube channel that I have nothing on it right now. What I will be doing is starting this railroad from scratch, using very little pieces of the existing railroad. I will be putting this together, and it will be entitled, Let's Build a Railroad. So anyone that's interested in coming on board and watch, just watch for the YouTubes for that. And you can follow me along with all from building the bench work to laying track, to getting the trains up and running on the track, to building structures. I will show you how to build some cardboard structures, some balsa structures, how to do it from scratch. I will show how to kit bash an engine. If you want to make a Camelback or one of the Laurentians or something, I'll show you how to do that. I'll show you how to do scenery, do foam carving, which is lightweight instead of 70, 80 pounds of plaster on your layout. You can use foam. I'll show you how to do foam carving to make it look real. I'll give you a complete insight of how to do basic scenery, stone walls, colorings, how to make trees, different things to use to make trees with. My favorite for the small trees is actually the what's left over after you eat grapes. All those stems in there, they make some nice little trees. They're
Now,
already
your YouTube channel, is it going to be D&H South?
it will be called Let's Build a Railroad by the Delaware and Hudson South Central Division.
Okay.
And I'll go right from beginning to end, and we'll do one whole section of the railroad. It'll be done in one section at a time. So you'll get to learn and see how everything is done in that section before I go on to the next one. So basically, it's just a repeat from there on down to the rest.
And of course, my number one question is, and I think that Troy is excited about this, we're going to have some hangout time too, right?
Yes.
Just normal hangout, let's work on the railroad.
Yes, definitely. I'll have one of my new cameras on one wall and have this one. I'll take the laptop with me with this camera, and we'll have two different angles. We can get up close and personal with what I'm doing. So.
Yeah, because I know that you have spent some money on some cameras here lately, and you got some pretty good deals on some webcams.
Yeah.
And so
99 cents.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't, you know, ask Bill, say, okay, you know, you're going to be putting some sort of articles for the EMAG on that, right?
Exactly.
I'll do an N-scale uncoupler for the microtrains uncoupler.
Yeah, and you know, also the scratch build stuff, that would be great too.
Yeah, I can do it.
You know, you could probably do a builder's log, right?
What's that?
A builder's log. You know, so, something similar to a captain's log.
Oh, okay.
A builder's log, right? And modeler's log.
Well, I'm here. I joined this group for the main sole purpose of helping beginners. Anyone that's just getting into the hobby that really doesn't know a whole lot, needs that little bit of education. I'm here. You can come on to any one of the model builders groups of the hangouts, and you stumped on something or want to try something, just ask, and I'll help you with it. That's my sole purpose. Like I said, I've been in this for 53 years, and it's time I, pay it forward.
So, Troy, would you want to show a little bit of the kit bash that you're going to do on a locomotive or talk about it? Maybe you don't have to show it.
Just don't make it a Challenger.
First thing is Bill, have you ever had to turn down your drivers? Having a cookie cutter style drivers on any of your N-scale locomotives, have you ever had to turn those back flanges down so that you'd have better clearance with them on running like smaller, like a code 55, rail or code 40 or something?
Yes, on code 55, some of the older Bachmann and some of the mini tricks had real wide flanges, and not only that, but some of the Bachmann engines, actually the wheels were out around. They had a hop to them. So you take a little Unimat and put a pin in them and chuck them in the lathe and turn the flanges down and also turn the tread to true it up. But when you do one, you have to do them all. So if you turn the tread on one to a certain thousandths off each one, you have to do it to all wheels so they're all run efficiently. But yes, I've had to do that, and the major problem I've had was getting the pins for the side rods to go back in and work properly.
Okay.
No.
Now, is there any aftermarket people out there that do something like that for some of these N scalers? Because I know that there's a lot of guys out there that are running or planning their layouts around code 40 and code 55, and guys like you and I, you know, where we're modeling a lot of the steam engines and stuff and trying to find that older stuff. There's not really a whole lot out there without avoiding or trying to avoid of having the cookie cutter wheel. So I mean, is there people out there that we can get in contact with that could help us out with something like that, or is it just something we can go out there and buy ourselves and do it ourselves?
I haven't found anybody other than myself that have done it. I can look around and see if we can find somebody that would do that. But believe it or not, for N scale, I found that if you wanted to get rid of cookie cutters, it costs a little bit. But buy Concours drivers. They're scaled.
Okay.
So if you're going to run code 55, you're going to have plenty of clearance. Flanges are all scaled.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I didn't want to intrude on anything else there, but that was just, you know, some of the questions with the builds that you're building with that Camelback and some other stuff, if you ever had to, you know, do anything quite like that, because I know I got a few older locomotives that I need to do something with as well. So
yeah, one suggestion is if you have old DC locomotives that you're going to change to DCC, rebuild them. Go through, pull the gears, pull the wheels, pull everything, go through every piece of it and rebuild it. Make sure all your bearing surfaces are oiled. Make sure your motors are positioned properly, that they're not out of gauge on the main gear to the worm. You'll get a lot less problems with them when they're back together and running properly. Make
yes,
sure
I agree.
pickups and everything are gauged to the wheels right.
Yes, an NMRA gauge, they're not that expensive for
No,
running with them.
To Randy Ford, he put a. It's not really a question, but that issue that he was having with that that truck that he got from the mail. I guess the mirror was completely obliterated, gone. So how would you scratch build something like that? I mean, if that little side mirror for that truck, which is HO scale, you know, I know, Bill, that you've done a little bit of HO scale. How would you, I mean, anybody that's in the panel, how would you scratch build a mirror? I mean,
without seeing it, I couldn't tell you what I'd have to use. In all actuality, I have in the past in HO scale have taken real thin, like a makeup mirror, but they're real thin, and actually cut little mirrors out and glued them onto the mirrors of trucks. So when you're looking at the truck from the back, you can actually see yourself in the mirror. And it was just another one of those effects. You know, when you're doing, you want to give your audience, regardless to who it is, whether it's just relatives or people coming to your house, or if you're going to put it on open display, you want, number one, a pinpointed area, and you don't want to spread out all over your layout. So that, you know, if you go to this, you got to walk to the other end to see another one. You don't want them all too close together to where you're going from one to the other and you're getting, you know, awed too much by the whole thing. But you want to strategically place things in different areas to give the onlooker this focal point. and then you'll get the oohs and the ahs, and that's the whole thing. If you equip lights in your vehicles, uh, take selected areas in the front that can be seen and put lights in. Sven, for instance, on his railroad, he uses these small LEDs to simulate flares in the road. Focal point, you're looking at that. And then it takes your eye away from the fact that the background behind that is on a wall. That street is on a wall. It's not continuing. So you don't want them to look at that and then say, oh, that's just a picture on a wall. Those flares give you that focal point and takes you away from the idea that you see it, but your mind's not playing it. So that's what you want. Each section of your railroad, specific areas, pick out an area that's going to be great to look at and build a focal point around it. Be it a building, a train, a car on a siding or something, whatever you're going to be using, make it so it is exceptional, something that pops.
It's like a forced perspective.
Well, doing forced perspective is where you have to shrink everything down because of the size limitations.
But you're also forcing the eye to go ahead and deceive and perceive certain things on the layout, whether if it's in the foreground or a background as well. It's not so much of giving something depth; it's something to go and get the eye to go to a specific area.
Exactly. If you're doing forced perspective, and which means compression, if you have to use backdrop buildings and you don't want the people to look and see, oh, that's only an inch thick or whatever. Give them a focal point in the face of there, in front, that they can see. Make an exceptional model of a building or something up there that they're going to ooh and ah over that building, even though they see the rest of the layout. It's not going to be their memory. The memory is going to be that building that you have out in the front. Got to keep the focal points to where you want them.
I know that you and I had talked about it. I have a section in my layout, and you've kind of not really picked apart my layout too much, as in basically you
don't have a whole lot there to pick on because
but you looked at a section. I'm trying to look for a picture right now of my layout to kind of give everybody an idea of what Bill's talking about. Here it is, I think. But anyways, yeah, the thing about what he's talking about, mirrors. I've got a section on my layout, and I'm going to go ahead and present that. That once this section is done, we're going to put a mirror where these two bridges are right here. I'm going to put a mirror in the background
and angle it forward
so that I got to get to there. This picture that I'm showing right now, in the background there's going to be a mirror so that this river scene that goes down through here will continuous down through there. But Bill and I had talked about this numerous of times, and I've kind of discussed it a little bit with Troy. When you do something like this, you need the background, the side views, so that it looks like it continues down through there. If you don't do it right, you're going to see a reflection of something else that you don't want to have. And I just wanted to bring that picture up, where the wall is. That river is going to continue down through there. And I thought of doing something different like what Sven has done. He's got on his layout, he's got a picture of a street that goes across the railroad tracks, and it continues down. And I even asked Sven how he did that. And he had to do some adjustments on Photoshop, but then Bill and I talked about doing a mirror, and I'm really going to experiment with the mirror thing because I think that's a really good idea.
Hey, dude. You know who else did that? Brian, what's his channel? Brian Burke's channel. He was one of the first guests, right? I think 10-2-2-56 or something like that. He did that with a road. And a
Yes,
tunnel
he did.
Kind of. And, you know, one of the lessons learned from that was that you've got to put something on the edges, like he put growth, plant growth, to sort of mask the fact that it's a mirror. There's no edges being seen. And so, you know, part of that was his planning, and part of it was the road was curved. So the curve reflected back, and it looked like it just continued into nowhere, you know, somewhere else. And he did a great job on that, and I thought that was very neat. So, you know, I think, you know, if you're looking at doing a river, you might want to put some rocks there at the bottom that are half cut.
Well, see that I'm glad you bring that up, because Bill and I had discussed, because as you see in the picture, I have 2 bridges. Well, those bridges will be reflected in there. So we're going to, you know, and Bill and I have discussed how we're going to distract you where you don't see the bridges. All you see, you know, like you're saying, JD, we're going to put some rocks in there and some foliage on the side, and you're going to look in there, and you're going to see the 3-dimensional of the bridges, but then you won't see the bridges in the reflection, because all you're going to see is the foliage, and that river is going to be like going down through the canyon.
Right. The other, you know, thing is, you know, the height of the mirror. So it doesn't even show up in there.
Exactly.
But yet, you know, there's foliage on the top that, you know, overshadows coming out, large trees overhanging over the river.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty wide river.
Yep. This is Sven's right here. This is another view of his scene. And I mean, when I saw that, I had to take a double take, because the way he did that, and that's not a mirror, that's just a picture that he says that he took off of Photoshop or Google Maps, I want to say, or Google Earth. And I just fell in love with that shot right there, because it just literally, like Bill says, bam, sticks out, and that looks real to me. I mean,
well, he has the tree out in the front of it that is actually a model tree, but with that flare sitting there, that's where you're focusing on. You're looking at that flare.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's your focal point. And
it really pulls the eye because of that.
Exactly.
You should add that to the list we talked about last night.
Yeah, you're fooling the mind's eye. Now, I used to use mirrors extensively, and I'll tell you who the first person to use mirrors on a layout was. That was John Allen. He used them all over the place.
Yeah.
And
we got a question.
Saw
that. Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
So when I saw that, I started using them myself. And the effects that you get are the realistic idea that something just continues on. Nothing ends. You just continue on.
Philip Wyman, I guess. Sorry, I'm terrible with names.
Hello, Philip.
This is for the whole panel. And you know, we discussed this a little while ago, Phil. I don't know if you were in the Q&A or watching the show at the time, but he wants to know, how do you make brick buildings, so the mortar and the bricks, and how to model this with a paint, chalk, and a wash.
What is the building made of? Is it styrene or what? That's the question.
Okay, let's say if it's we've been discussing a lot of cardboard. I mean, like JD's building, he did a JD. Can you show that, pull that building up with the brick again? This is cardboard, Philip.
And you can see there's 3 dimensions added to it from the bottom. And then this piece here as well.
The brick alone, I know it's just it's on a webcam, but the brick alone looks 3-dimensional, and that's just paper, right? Glued to
that's
cardboard?
paper. It was printed on a color laser printer, just at work, and I had access to a color laser printer, so I just used that. I created the brick pattern on a computer, and you'd be surprised what I used to create it. My daughter's Disney software.
That's
Came with a
awesome.
little toy Disney camera or something.
Yeah.
Okay, but back to the question of mortar and all. If it's a plastic building or a balsa building that has the imprint, styrene or balsa, use I would say a 60-40 wash of white over top of your reds or browns or whatever color you're using, and wash it down, get it in all the cracks, and then take a cloth and make sure that it's flat, that it doesn't have any ripples in it, and then go over the surface and wipe it very lightly and get your white off the top of the brick. Then use a wet brush and go back over it again to set the white down in the grooves in your mortar area, and it'll wash the brick down some more. Let it dry. Then you can use white and gray chalks and to give your weathering to both the mortar and the brick itself.
Bill, have you ever used or looked at using and I've seen this on some YouTube channels like Monster Railroad, his channel, for example, using a drywall compound, a thinned out drywall compound that you rub across like a dry rub, and then you buff it off, and what stays is the actual mortar lines.
If you are doing O scale or S scale, have at it. Using HO and N scale, I wouldn't recommend it because the mortar compound density is so heavy that when you try and force it into the bricks there, we're not going to get enough in covering. It's going to keep trying to work its way back out. Plus, once it dries and you bump that building or you move that building, the stuff's going to fall out.
Good point.
Painting it is with a wash is their best bet.
We got here Hawks HO's layout. He bought some embossed paper with brick printing on them. Is that something like what you got? Is that something similar, JD, that you used with those brick buildings that you got? Or I mean,
no, mine's just I created a brick pattern from scratch. I mean, this is not 3D at all. This is just a printed, but I worked very hard to make it look like it was 3D when I created the pattern.
Yeah.
And so it's not just one layer; it's like 3 layers of bricks that I just took the image and re-imaged itself on top of each other to look 3-dimensional.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of work involved in that, but so let me see if I can get the pattern a little bit closer. So it gives that falsehood that it is 3-dimensional, but it isn't.
Yeah, that looks just. I mean, that's amazing. When I first saw that, when
it's just very flat surface. It's smooth.
Yeah.
It's a laser jet printer printing. So yeah, but I've seen those out there. They look very convincing.
Yeah, he posted a link. I guess that's the link to it. He looks like he put a link to that embossed paper. And
yeah, some embossed papers look good until you glue them to a surface, and they have a tendency of trying to flatten out, especially when handling them. And when they're wet with the glue and you try handling it, and moving it, so they'll flatten out. I don't recommend the embossed paper. If you're going to try and make it look 3D like that, go to Monster Models and get their styrene. It's a very, very thin styrene, or their balsa that has the actual brick inlay on it, and use it. You'll be so much happier, believe me. It's less frustration. It doesn't cost that much. You can scratch build anything with it.
You're saying on balsa, right?
What's that?
Bill, you were saying on balsa.
Yeah, they have it on balsa too. all laser cut on balsa, brick, clapboard, stone, just about anything you want.
Now, have you ever taken balsa and actually just scored it and made your own brick with a scoring technique, or is that does that make the balsa wood too flimsy and possibly break?
If you use a dense balsa sheet, you can do that. I have done it. If you use a thin, light density wood, when you go to make your scoring marks, the wood surface is going to crack on you.
Okay.
So it has to be real dense balsa to do that.
Very
But
nice.
I prefer using, if I'm going to scratch build something that I need a brick, and I don't want to revert to the styrene or the paper because I want it to be up front, 3D, visual. Then I'll buy the stuff from Monster Models and use it. Andy Crawford, he'll tell you they have some of the most beautiful stuff, and it's easy to work with. You can actually cut it to mate it. So when you get a corner, you put corners together, it looks like the brick that's in the face actually the
Overlapping.
Overlapping, right.
Yeah.
Bill, you said the paper has a tendency to flatten out with the glue. Have you seen that with spray glues, or have you used spray glues?
It doesn't make any difference. If the glue is wet or damp, it's going to happen. Paper will absorb moisture quicker than any other material.
Well, it looks like a lot of our Q&A questions are. We've had quite a few people watching this presentation. I've seen up to about 15 viewers. I want to thank everybody for coming into this Q&A. I know it was short notice. I had to do a schedule change. Tonight was supposed to be on still photography for doing anything from rail fanning to layouts, because I know that a lot of guys are wanting to get some techniques and ideas on taking certain pictures of their layouts and stuff like that. One thing that we do here in YouTube Model Builders, we try and push any of you guys that have not done a YouTube channel. We try and push everybody to do a YouTube channel, and even with beginners, make videos of stuff that you do. I mean, not everybody is a professional at what we do. Bill is probably one of the few that's been at it the longest. There is a lot of videos on YouTube. A lot of our supporters on YouTube that have good how-to videos. Again, there are a lot of YouTube video providers out there that are only get out there to get subscribers as well. But the Hangouts are designed to come in, and there's a lot of us that come into the Hangouts to put up our webcams while we're working on our layouts. I know that it took Troy forever to get me to start get my Helix started and built. He bugged me enough to finally, I just set the camera up. I finally got a new camera, and I got my Helix up, and finally almost finalized my Helix. I can actually run a train from my lower deck to my upper deck. I still got one section I have to lay track on, and then through, of course, holes through my wall. Not everybody can do that. But anyways,
and
and a door, yeah. We all have YouTube. Most of us that are on the panel here have YouTube channels. If you haven't subscribed to us, go and check us out. Troy there from Pacific North Central, he's got a really good how-tos if you want to get into building your own turnouts, go and see his videos. He's got some really nice videos. I mean, he did a presentation. I think it was like the first or second presentations of these the presentations that we did of building some turnouts, but he's got some really good videos on start to finish on building turnouts. Of course, they're in scale, but you can do HO too. And honestly, if that's the way to go, because by the time you buy all the stuff to do it, what is it, Troy? After your 10th one, they're all free from there. I mean, you start saving money, you know.
Yeah, it's approximately right around that 10 mark. After you purchase 10 turnouts, you got about $150 invested. That's providing you're paying the $15 a turnout. After that, it's all there. You're not investing anymore except for just a little bit of rail. Your solder goes a long way, so you're really not investing anymore there, except for a little bit of time. You're looking at, once you get it down to a T, you're probably looking. You could probably go and get a turnout built in 45 minutes to an hour. Your first couple of turnouts probably take you about 3 hours. The way you've got to look at it, and the way I looked at it, it was kind of a little bit difficult for me because I was sitting there saying, "Oh my gosh, it's going to take me 3-4 hours to go and build a turnout." And then I sat down and started thinking to myself, I spent 2, 3, 4 hours on one turnout just to go and get the points fixed or the frog fixed. Right there alone, it had already saved the time, the hassle, because it was sitting right here in front of me. By the time I went to the layout, it's flawless. There's no, even when you go to ballast it and paint up your rails, you don't have to sit down and mask up all your points or anything else like that. Just start squirting. Clean out the tops of your rails, ballast it, you're done, you're ready to go. There's no hassle, there's no fuss in it, nothing. They're just flawless. Whether it's HO.
Yeah. Sven has done some good presentation. He's he's going to probably do some more eventually. Once we sweet talk him into doing those. But go check out his YouTube channel as well. He, like I said, he presented that picture of the backdrop where that road, once you went across like Bill was talking with the flare, and the first time I saw that, I just saw him running trains on his layout. He's just got a point to point, and he runs a dead rail on his. And if you want to know a little bit more about dead rail, I'm looking at probably doing a little bit more further presentation on dead rail, because dead rail, you're using a battery, and so that day when Sven was running trains on his layout, I saw that picture and I just had to ask, how did you do that? And there are so many techniques, and if you go and watch everybody's YouTube channels on these techniques, you can pick up so much on the YouTube channels. There's a lot of information, a lot of good information out there, and that's where a lot of us have picked up ideas, and we've taken their ideas and turned them around, boost them up a little bit to fit to suit our needs on our layouts. But it's getting close to that time, and once again, we don't push this enough. Every 2 months is our live show, YouTube Model Builders live shows. Those are really good. They got Q&A just like this here. The nice thing about the live shows, you can go on there and ask your questions to the panel just like this. It's not as in-depth as the presentations, because the presentations are actually presenting a certain whatever topic that we're doing, and but the live show has their giveaways, and that's the nice thing about the live show is the giveaway. Of course, going and seeing Bill and Barry as well. You don't want to miss those two. They're a great group of guys. I've gotten to know them all real well, and they're great. And of course, the EMAG. You know, you guys don't want to miss out on the EMAG. The EMAG is every 2 months. JD has been doing an exceptional job on the EMAG, getting it out to everybody. And this stuff's all free. Just go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com. It's all there. And, you know, the nice thing about the website is it's one-stop shop. You can go there and see everything. Just one click away, you can see certain YouTube videos and all that. So just stay tuned with us. We got a lot more coming up in the next several months. We got a lot more stuff coming along. I know that summer's coming along, and a lot of guys, you know, quit working on their layouts during the summer, but hang in there. There's a lot more stuff coming up and going to be presented to all of you viewers. So once again, I want to thank Bill and everybody that's come onto the panel tonight, and everybody that's come in the Q&A and asked some questions. And until next time, next Tuesday, we're going to do another presentation. You know, go to the website to see the schedule. The schedule will be updated probably fairly soon. We got some new things coming up for the presentation actually shows. So just hang in there, guys, and there's going to be some really good stuff going on. And I want to thank everybody, and everybody have a good night.